Oh, and we're live. Happy Friday, everybody. Or as I used to say, because when I taught on Fridays, happy Terry Friday. So Nina, our friend Nina, will be joining us. Nina and I just both got back from an on-site in Indianapolis. And so I just literally drove home, got home 45 minutes ago. Nina's almost home. And so we wanted to talk a little bit today about when is enough, right? When is enough, meaning how much do you put up with your teachers or your staff? And in terms of when they won't do things. And yeah, so that's, and then it's like stepping into that role of leadership. And the saying is it's lonely at the top is absolutely true. But had a case at the onsite this past week where we're doing the sales training, and one of the teachers just straight up just said, I'm not doing it. You can't make me do this. I'm not going to do it. Just flat out refused to do it. So granted, they're an independent contractor, so it's not technically in their contract. However, is that someone you really want on your team? Right? I mean, do you really want someone on your team who just straight up refuses to do something?
I mean, we always talk about when we're hiring, there are the three really simple things that you think through or figure out in this conversation with hiring. And it's, do they share your core values? You know, can they learn, and do you like them? And I think that goes back to the core value. Like if the studio's value is, of course, like sharing the yoga, sharing the practice, getting as many people's lives transformed as possible, and this is the avenue that the leader has decided is a part of that vision and goal and those core values, and then you're not aligning with it, you got to go, like, and why? It might be a little bit of digging as to why, but what is it? You hire slowly, fire quickly.
Hire slowly, fire fast. And it's not just, it's definitely core values. And part of that is teamwork. For sure. I mean, again, hashtag Terry's dad, I'm always good about that is, and when I grew up, obviously some of heard my story, grew up working for my dad all through school, and then came back after post-college and worked, I like to say, as an adult for about 7 years before I moved away to the Bay Area. Anyway, I was raised in a work environment like that. It was a family-run business, small business, which is very much what a yoga studio is for the most part, small business. And I do believe small business, actually in the United States, is defined as less than $10 million. So I would say most yoga studios are definitely even with multi-locations, are technically small business. Is that everybody does the job. There is no such thing as it's not my job. Mm-hmm. Well, granted, in a yoga studio, if you're not a trained teacher, then you're not going to be able to teach a class. I mean, because there definitely are within organizations certain skill levels, certain education requirements that you need to do a job. But the reality is that everybody should, I mean, if you have a team and you're on the team, everybody should be willing and able to do, oh, no, that's not the button I want to push. Oh, here she comes. To do all the other jobs, regardless of whether it's their job or not. So Nina, real quickly, we're talking about, hey, Nina girl. I told him we just got back.
Hi, best friend.
I know.
I miss you.
I know, I miss you already. I haven't seen you since last night. I heard
you the same thing I was wearing last time you saw me.
At 3 a.m. I was worried about you last night because when the thunderstorm started at like 1 a.m., I'm thinking, oh my God, is Nina going to get on her flight this morning? But anyway, so we're talking about, Nina, just to catch you up real quick, is when is enough enough?
That's right? A great topic.
Yeah, right on. And talking about when, as a leader, if someone is not willing to do, just straight up flatly refuses to do something, are they really part of your team? So I was just talking about when I worked for my father is, everybody could, it's like, if the bathroom was dirty, you clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
If the trash was overflowing, you emptied the trash.
No one's above or below.
No one's above or below.
Yeah.
Obviously, skill set, if you're a yoga teacher, I mean, if you're not trained to teach a yoga class, then obviously not gonna be able to teach a yoga class, but that doesn't mean you can't help out. So we're just sort of chatting about
Yeah.
how do you hire for that? How do you get rid of people if they no longer fit that?
Great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love it. I'm in.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you were saying, Carol, you read something on LinkedIn that kind of related.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking through, I don't remember exactly the whole post, and but it was, I think a lot of this stems from leadership. Obviously, like your hashtag Terry's dad, if there's a problem in your business, it's your problem. It came from you. So I think this LinkedIn post had talked about, as a leader, you need to, one, find out what motivates your team. You need to be willing to do all the things. Like they're looking to you as an example. So I always felt like, yeah, I'm willing to clean the toilet at the studio, even if I've hired somebody to do that, if it needs to be done and like they're out that day. I think it's setting clear expectations as well. So maybe this person like has sort of fallen through the cracks, or they didn't figure that. I'm sort of thinking about this sales training situation. Like if your job and your role is really to, again, sell this transformation and get somebody in the door and sell them on this yoga path, then why are we even having this conflict? So expectations are a big thing, setting example, and being willing to talk through. Like I always feel like if there was an issue, I don't mind confrontation. I'm one of those people that's like, okay, let's talk about it. Where I know other people can tend to just push that away. That doesn't feel good. I don't want to have that conversation. But I would rather talk it out, maybe find out more from the employee. What can we do? What's going to make you feel good? Do we have, are we on the same page, core value wise? Let's have the conversation. If not, that's not an indictment on you as a person. Just maybe we're not aligned right now. And so it might be time to sever the ties. I always felt like, I didn't always let people go when I should have. I mean, it is hard. And I think everybody, all of us.
Guilty as
yeah.
charged.
And I do feel like it comes from a place of fear. Either like this person is really popular with a certain group and we might lose students, or fear of what does that look like for me as the studio owner? Now I have to cover all these shifts or find somebody new. And that's another set of fears. But I did learn from my mistakes, and I'm sure the same from you guys too. But like when I didn't want to go into my studio to be around that person, what am I even doing? Like and the thing is, once you finally get rid of them and that weight is lifted, you're like, why didn't I do this sooner? We've talked about this before, I know, ad nauseum, but
no, it's so
get over the fear. You have to get over the fear.
Well,
and just do it.
That kind of exactly happened this week for us, and someone chose to leave the yoga studio. Yes, we are live. LOL, Nina. We are live. Yes. And
I thought I was in the green room still.
Yeah, no, we're not in the green room. We're live. We're live. We're live on YouTube. Hello, YouTube landers. So, and again, position of fear, and it's never good to do anything from a position of fear. And what it specifically happened this past week is that the person who left, immediately we redid the job description. We put an email out. People, I mean, within 24 hours, with the exception of the teaching portion of it, all the front desk shifts were covered. Had two people who
2 hours.
In 2 hours.
Wow.
2 people had applied. One teacher stepped forward and said, she's a school teacher, public school teacher. She said, I have a little more time this summer. I'd be happy to take on a couple of front desk shifts. I like to work the front desk for the summer. So boom. And then another a client's daughter is home for the summer and she's interested. And so she said, I'd be interested. Now, yes, granted, they're going to have to train those people and they're probably going to leave at the end of the summer. However, at least with the teacher who wants to step up, then they have somebody else trained on the desk who perhaps can cover or sub a front desk shift. Because think about that, just like you want to have subs for teachers, it's nice to have multiple front desk people that can sub out shifts as well. So it was seriously within 2 hours of this happening, already we had a basic solution in place, right? And even though the owner is going to have to, put some more hours in when she hadn't planned to and teach a few more classes, she said that exactly. She said she walked in, she was like, I feel so much lighter. Right, Nina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
so
the transformation.
The transformation. So what are some actual things one can do? We were talking before you got on, Nina, about maybe even before we went live, Carol, is if you have a really good team and everybody on the team is there to uplift and support the studio, what are some things you can, and what are some actual things that you can actually do to help build your team, to actively get everybody on the same page? And Carol, I know one of the things you do, you've talked about this before, but I think this is brilliant, what you did at your studio.
Yeah, I mean, I felt, well, you're talking about me doing the Monday minutes.
Yes.
We've talked about this before. Every Monday I would have a little video that would go out to the entire team. And it just was like, hey, let's prep for the week. And you're doing really great on this. Let's work on that. Make sure to announce this. It was just sort of keeping everybody aware. And I feel like leadership, when you keep the team involved in that way and aware of the vision and where things are going, and even just little things like, oh, so and so has joined our team. Like if you're not doing that, it's hard, I think, in a yoga studio to feel really connected, because there are so many teachers that I wouldn't see for weeks in person.
Yeah.
Like you could go a long time without actually seeing certain people. So this little bit of a weekly check-in that gave them like, hey, we're all on the same page. We all know these are the things that we are working on together. I felt that it really pulled the team together, made them feel involved and in the know. So it wasn't like, I hate that feeling of not knowing when something's happening. And so let's say an email about a challenge was going out. If the team wasn't aware of that, and then the students asking about it, and maybe you only told the desk staff and not the teacher, like it just, I don't know, it brought everybody together. And I felt like the Monday minutes were so helpful in doing that.
Yeah.
And there was another thought I had too. Oh, and obviously having regular get-togethers, meetings with your whole staff. Like if you're not having, we suggest having quarterly staff meetings at minimum, and set them on the calendar from the top of the year so everybody knows when they're happening. And it doesn't really matter if you don't know what you're going to talk about. There will be something to talk about. Or maybe you just make it a fun one. Like usually our Q4 was our holiday party, at our studio. So yeah, keeping everybody in the loop.
Keeping everybody in the loop. I think one thing too, we hear this a lot, is, well, my teachers have full-time jobs. I can't ask them or expect them. And again, we repeat ourselves a lot on the Roundup because it's like the similar things happen frequently, is you need to treat that job as a yoga teacher, as a front desk, as a professional job. And it is a professional job. And if someone chooses to teach at your studio and they're not treating it like a professional job, right? That I am a yoga professional. I'm a professional yoga teacher. It doesn't matter if they have a full-time corporate salary, whatever it is, they have chosen to be a yoga teacher. And it shouldn't be just, I think oftentimes we hire teachers and we give them that out. We give them that out that, oh, well, they have a full-time job. So what?
Or it's like, they're helping me by teaching.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like,
And
no,
I think
I've created a space to employ people.
right. It's not a
And
hobby.
Not a nonprofit.
Not a nonprofit, not a hobby. And just like, it's like, you know, a passion, you know, sometimes it's a passion project or it's a side gig or it's a hobby. I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know if I want teachers who don't treat it. Yes, I have a full-time job and I'm a yoga professional and I teach 2 classes a week at this yoga studio and I'm a professional there.
mhm.
So I think we have to reframe, we as, when I say we as owners and leaders need to reframe our thinking
Yeah,
on the jobs that we're offering.
definitely. And then it goes both ways, because if you want your staff to treat it like a real job, you have to also
Treat it
treat
like
it
a
like a
real
real
job.
job and treat
Mhm.
them like they're real employees or contractors or whatever it is. I was gonna say another ad that's been really nice for the studio that I'm teaching at here in Miami is they regularly share positive feedback regularly. And it's just like, so people get a shout out, you know, and that feels really good. That builds community and that builds, yeah, a good attaboy, atta girl,
Add a human.
atta human. Right, exactly. It's nice.
Yes, it's sharing those shout outs when you get a positive review or when someone says something to you at the front desk. And, you know, it's, yeah, the more you can share that kind of stuff out, the more people do feel connected to the community. I love whether it's a Monday Minute, whatever it is, how you communicate. I think it's that just like with your community, you want to communicate regularly, you want to communicate regularly with your team as well. And then also the other thing to keep in mind, and again, we say this before, and we've all been have been burnt by this, is your staff, your teachers, your front, they're not your friends,
Wah, 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 wah.
right? It's hard, it's really hard sometimes
Hard
to
one.
realize
The
your
hard one.
clients are, unless you were friends before you opened the studio and before you were a yoga teacher and all that stuff, yes, but for the most part, your clients aren't your friends either. And sometimes we lose sight of that, particularly in what we do with yoga, because it is more casual, all that kind of stuff. We still need to, as a yoga professional, as a business owner, even as a yoga teacher, create that professional, that friendly professional boundary. You want to be friendly, but you're not really friends because there is that boundary. They are giving you money for something. Right? They're paying, you're exchanging money for services, and therefore right there, that creates an interesting, it's a different relationship than we're just friends off the books kind of thing. So that can be a hard one, particularly when you think someone's your friend and all of a sudden they do, and you're like, wow, I thought they were my friend. And that really hurts more than if like they're more as an employee. It's like, well, I don't like that, but oh well. It's not so personal. So that's the other thing, is trying to maintain that professional, personal boundary.
Hmm.
Being friendly, being all those things, and yet not being friends. It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you handle that, you guys? It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It is tough because over the years, you do get really close to some people, like, and you know about their personal lives, and you know, the lines can get blurred. You know, you might be helping an employee in a way that you didn't expect, you know, just, I don't know. It's, I think that, you know, the other, a lot of places are like, and we're family here and we want to, you know, so that's another part. It's like, you are really forging long-term relationships with a lot of your employees and clients, but I don't know the answer, actually. I'm just sort of like reflecting on my own.
Well, I was just thinking as we were saying that, is one thing that really does help create that is when you have systems in place and when you have detailed job descriptions and detailed expectations. I think it gets way more fuzzy when you're just like, oh, you know, it's just vaguely defined. And I was guilty of the beginning. I was just vaguely defined. And I think that's oftentimes when more problems arise, is when things are vaguely defined, as opposed to very specifically, this is the job, these are the accountabilities, these are the KPIs, And I think we should start doing that with the teachers as well. It's like, here are the KPIs that tell us if you're doing an effective job as a teacher. And a lot of systems have those numbers, or you can run those numbers. And I'm all about, sharing those numbers. What is your retention rate? What is your return rate? How do you stack up against the other teachers? And Nina and I were even talking about this this week, is the bad time slot. Is there such a thing as a bad time slot if the teacher's really doing what they need to do to fill their class? I would argue, we talked about this last week, right? You can still have full classes at 5:30, 6 a.m. in the middle of summer if the teacher is doing their job to help get people in the room, kind of thing. So I think the more you can have it, the more you treat it like a business, I think the better results you're going to have.
Yeah.
And then we see it in the YC when people turn that corner. I know it was for me.
For sure.
What say you, Nina? I see your thinking face on.
Yeah. I don't think that they have to be mutually exclusive necessarily, that you can do business with kindness and fun and even spirituality. They don't have to be separate, because after wherever you go, there you are. As Brene Brown says, what did she say? I'm so fuzzy from waking up at 3 a.m.
I can't believe you're here.
Clarity is kindness.
Oh, I like that.
So when clear, we're actually being kind and we're doing everyone a service, then as opposed to the opposite. When we're fuzzy and we're not really expressing clear expectations, how can we expect them to do the thing?
Right. And then how can we be upset if the performance isn't what we expect it to be because we haven't had that clarity?
Right.
All right, say that again. Clarity is kindness.
Kind.
I like that.
Yeah. And some of this too came up during the week of messaging and knowing like who you are as a business. What are your core values? What is your mission? What are the pillars? Things like that. And then you can come back to that if it does come to the point where you're having to meet with a teacher or a staff member, and it's like, it's not personal. It's just like, here are the core values, and are you on board with this?
Yeah. Or I'm sensing a disconnect with that.
So
and
here, it's not about me. It's not personal. It's not me.
Right.
It's just, this is the business. This is what the business needs. This is who the business is. And I'm sensing a disconnect. Are you on board?
Yeah.
But if you have that, then you can't really point to that. And then it does kind of get murky and personal.
Yeah. And when you do have those disconnects, or when you do have that difficult conversation, it also helps when you do that, because then it's about the business. It's not about, this is what I need you to do. This is what the business needs. So we're taking it out of taking it to that entity of the business. And we need to do this to support and uplift the business so that we can be here for our community. And then it becomes, again, it's not about me as a business owner, it's about the business itself. And the other thing we did a lot of coaching on this week is that I'm sensing, or I'm feeling, they're called I statements, right? I'm sensing that you're not in line with us on let's talk about that, as opposed to saying you're not in line with this, which puts people very on the offensive. You can't argue when someone says, well, this is what I'm sensing, this is what I'm feeling. Let's have a conversation about that so I can understand what you're feeling and what you're sensing. And then you have people that straight up just refuse to have those conversations and decide to leave. And that's okay.
And that's okay, because
that's okay.
We don't have to be, we're not for everyone.
Yeah.
That was I think it's really big. I think that when I finally realized, like, I don't like or need to be friends with everyone, and they're not all gonna like me, like, it was kind of freeing. Like, it's like, everyone has to like me. That's fine. I'm good with myself. And like, if that person wants to leave, go do you.
Go do you. I'll do me. Go do you. Right. And it can also be, you hire someone and everything's good, and they are part of the team, and then something in their life might change and all of a sudden it's not so good. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, circumstances change, situations change, responsibilities change, and it may be that they were in perfect alignment when they were hired, and now fast forward however many years or months, it's like now all of a sudden we're not. And I think it's okay to have that, because again, when you have those conversations, like to Nina's point with the pillars and this, it's like, I am not in line with this because this is what's happening in my life. And I think sometimes it can be a relief for people to say, oh, this isn't working for me anymore. Because I think sometimes too, there's the fear on the part of the staff member, oh, if I leave, or maybe there's the guilt, if I leave, this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And they stick around because they think they're helping. In reality, their situational thing is bringing toxicity into the studio, and it would be better. And sometimes it does take having those conversations to like, this isn't right for me anymore right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And even when nothing's bad or wrong, it's just time to move on for whatever reason. I remember before I owned the studio and feeling so guilty. I was managing and I was going to move to San Francisco, and I just felt so guilty and sad to tell them, and because I loved them, and then, but guess what? I'm replaceable too. Yep. There's that, me leaving just opened it up for the next great person to come in. Right. Nothing's bad or wrong. It's like
nothing bad or wrong, which is why it's always a good idea to have a, join our team page on your website. And even if you're not actively hiring, I know again, it's like repeat, always actively recruiting. I have a client at the footer of every email, are you interested in being part of our team? Click here. And it goes to, talks about, and it's just like the different jobs and about if you're interested, we're currently, there are no positions available. If you're interested in being blah, 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 and you get an email. And then that way, when you are ready to hire, it's like, oh, this Carol and Nina and Terry were all interested in this position. Now I've got a pool, 3 people that read the job description, said they were interested. And now I can, hey, Carol, we now have this position available. Are you still interested or not? So that's why it's like continually recruiting and hiring, or not recruiting people and just letting them know what the opportunity is. And maybe you do just have a quick conversation with them, but you say, yeah, okay, we're currently no positions available. However, I'll definitely keep you in my, if it happens, we'll reach out, blah, blah, blah. Carol, you were going to say
and I love that too, because you might want to make a position for somebody. Like you might not know that somebody's interested, but then like, they're really good at they might have some skills that like, I don't care, I like you, we share the same core values, and guess what, I'm making a position for you to get on my team, because I just you never know.
Because as an owner, we're probably doing a lot of different jobs, and maybe we're looking like it's front desk, but then we find out, oh, this person is, man, like you said, they can take this off my plate, and I can now pay someone to do this, which frees me up to do these other things. So that's the other beautiful thing about having a sort of a pipeline always going, obviously for teachers, but also for front desk staff, and if you have a larger operations, maybe like an ops manager, something like that. But even like a single location, teachers and front desk you should always just be, hey, are you interested in being on our team?
So maybe I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, so maybe in like this, it's in the job description also when they submit, like have a little place that's like, what's your skill set? Like what are the things you're good at? Just to have that pool kind of expand for you, because it might be beyond.
Graphic design on the side or whatever.
Yeah.
What's your secret sauce? Right?
Let
me tell you, if you need to get a party started,
right.
I'm your woman.
Terry's at 7, party started.
Than any of us combined, Carol.
If you need someone to sell a program, get people excited about something, whatever, give me the first and I will go. Yeah, that's my secret sauce. But anyway, yeah, that's a good point of having something like always having that thing. And then let's talk about too, because I have a post on this that I haven't sent out yet, is it was actually based on the Roundup last week with regards to interviewing. And when you do have a job, when you do have an ad out and the follow-up there, and one thing I really recommend, and we talked about this week, is you do a quick, like 5-10 minute phone interview. Because in this situation, the studio was specifically looking for a yoga sculpt teacher. That's what they needed. They needed a yoga sculpt teacher. So we did an Indeed ad on one of our calls one day, what we were looking for, the hour, we said availability to work nights, to work weekends, needed someone that had a little more flexibility. Very specific in the ad what we were looking for. So then a couple of people applied. One young woman said, yep, I'm a sculpt teacher, blah, blah, came in. Oh, great, come in and do an audition class. Came in, did an audition class, turned out the studio director was like really impressed with this young woman, did a great job on the class, blah, blah, blah. And then having, well, I really don't like teaching yoga sculpt, so I don't want to teach yoga sculpt. I'd rather teach vinyasa. And oh, by the way, I can only teach Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. And it was like, okay, wasted everybody's time. And first off, then the studio director was wavering about, and I said, no. Right away, that's a problem, because read the job description, didn't just, first off, that's problematic. Problem one. Doesn't follow. I said, so that could have been avoided, wasting all that time with a quick phone call. Hey, just want to check in, are you available to work? I need these shifts covered. You have to have flexibility. Or I definitely am interested in what other modalities, but I need a sculpt teacher. That's what I'm looking for. And if just having that 5-10 minute phone conversation would have saved everybody a bunch of time. So
also recommended by dating coaches, just saying.
Also what?
Recommended by dating coaches.
Just by dating coaches.
Get on the phone for 5 minutes, because you can, before you make the effort to meet someone, because you get so much information from how somebody shows up on the phone.
Well, if you think about it, when you're applying, it's kind of like a date. You kind of are dating. I mean, it's like when you're going through the.
But don't date. But don't actually date them.
But don't actually date. No. Speaking of which, do you have a policy about dating students?
Right. Don't do it.
Oddly enough, we didn't have anything in place as like an expectation, but we did have to tell somebody once that they couldn't. You need to talk to people about it, I guess. Something needs to be said. We were trying to get people to be mature about it. Essentially what happened was one of our staff members went and like hit on a new person, and then they never came back. So
awful.
It was a bit awkward. So we had to have some conversations around that. Like, look, if you it's a long-term student and you guys fall in love and you can be mature about it, of course, we're not going to stop you from doing that, but you can't hit on new students coming in the door.
Well, that's interesting. Where do you draw the line? It's like,
exactly. I don't know. Well, I mean, if they were mutually I don't know. It's
long-term student, not long-term student. It's a power dynamic.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. I had the policy of no. Once I started leading, I was telling a story to Terry studio teacher trainings. I had that in the ethics of teaching.
Oh yeah, talk about and I thought that was brilliant what you have in your teacher training.
So I pulled from California State, has this whole amazing, really actually quite fascinating sort of, I don't know how many sections it is, but on ethics, the ethics of teaching. And one of them is that you not date your students because of that power differential. So I had that in my teacher training, and then I thought, well, I better apply this to my staff as well. And I had a sub who was clearly dating a student. And so when I talked to him about it, and it wasn't like you're bad or wrong, I just hey, since I'm doing this for my teacher trainings, I'm going to bring this now into the culture of the staff. And he just flat out denied that he was dating her. And I said, oh, my mistake. I guess I got that wrong. But then it was clear that they really were dating. And so it kind of blew up in everyone's face. But what I'd said to him was, since you're a sub here, again, you're not in trouble or bad or wrong. It's just, you just wouldn't teach here any longer, but you'd still be welcome to practice. I'm not going to charge you for class. You're still a part of this community. It's cool. But then like the lying to my face twice, that was the line for me. It's like, no, this is
not acceptable. Yeah.
And then it turned out, I had later found out that he had been fired from 3 different studios. And one was actually a pretty severe accusation of sexual assault. So
it's a tough one. I think it's like you said, it's apology.
And they did actually, that student and him did end up getting married.
Yep.
So good for them.
Good for them.
But for me, it was like, no.
Yeah. It's no dating. I think that just makes it super easy. It's a tough one. Anyway. All right. What else is happening in the YC? I know it's summertime is almost officially here.
I did have one other thing to add to the employee thing that came up while you guys were talking earlier. I had, and I don't know who else might already do this, but they had an exit survey for employees whenever they, like however they're leaving, they started to implement that. And really she said all she did was go to Chat GPT and say, how do I, I'm a yoga studio that would like to create an exit survey for employees to find out, satisfaction, etc. And it spit out some questions, and she's like, it actually was really good. And the person filled it out and she felt like she learned a lot. So that might be another thing to add to help and improve
we also recommend that for when folks are canceling memberships.
100%. Like we have a cancellation survey to find out.
I mean, all feedback is good feedback. So I think that's great.
Yeah, actually, speaking of, we set up at the studio we're at this past week, they're going to start allowing self-cancellation on the website of memberships. So I think they were like, you mean we could do that? And they're like, oh my gosh, that would be so great. Just saving all of the admin time of what goes into cancellations. Because I know we've said this before, by the time someone gets to cancel, it's probably too late to save them. The time to get them to stop canceling is like, I'm thinking like 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks before they cancel. And why not just make it super easy for people to cancel? Think about how much admin time and angst and anger and frustration you would save if that was possible. Anyway.
I know, right?
Yeah. All right. So we talked about leadership. We talked about not dating students. We talked about students refusing to do. And Nina's going to jump because she's going to go take a yoga class. Good for you. I was so excited this week. I got to take a really, really good OG Bikram class this week. It was so great. I heard grab your exactly opposite elbows over each other. I heard Japanese ham sandwich.
And what was cool, if I may, is that there weren't mirrors.
Yeah.
He was not trained. He didn't actually do any training of any kind for that style.
Yeah, he was a vinyasa teacher.
And he's self-taught. And we were like super skeptical, weren't we? Before
we were.
Let's see. It was a great class.
It was a great class.
He had dialogue, he had command, he was really
present. Didn't miss. I mean, I don't need the mirrors. I mean, I didn't miss the mirrors. The heat was great. It was hot, it was sweaty, not like kill you hot like some old Bikram studios are, but it was definitely hot. I got sweaty. It was funny listening to these 2 women behind me. Oh my God, Nina, you didn't see them.
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, when standing separate legs stretching, Dandayamana Bihaktapada Paschimottanasana, and just because it's so much fun to say, Dandayamana Bihaktapada Paschimottanasana, touch your forehead to the floor, and of course Nina's forehead, top of the head's on the floor. In between, these 2 women are like kind of looking at you like, and I'm like,
that's so funny
because your spine was perfectly straight from the coccyx to the neck.
I needed that.
But yeah, it was
the whole time. Like when he would say, and now, whatever, they were like,
oh yeah, they were giggling though. That was great. I love that when people can giggle in a yoga class.
No.
I think that's so
It's
great.
advanced. That's the most advanced thing you can do.
Yeah.
Smile.
People, let's laugh at ourselves. And they're like, oh yeah, right. She's like, you want me to do what?
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a great attitude to have in anything. Is like, but they tried.
Yeah.
They struggled because they were right. They were like behind me, and I could kind of see them in my periphery. You know, like we were because we turned on our mats and stuff. It's like they were trying. They were definitely trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
a good
Okay.
time.
Well, I'm gonna go.
All right,
rest
Nina. Have a great
up.
class. We'll see
Good
you.
to be back with you all. I'm looking forward to next Friday.
Okay, we'll see you, Nina.
Okay, have a great day. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, I'm pretty pooped after this. So I think that's pretty good.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Wrapping it up.
Wrapping it up. So one thing I will leave with, and just thinking about, we've talked about before, and it's like, what can people do? Like, again, this is a time of year. Yes, it is. Attendance can be down, and less attendance doesn't mean less revenue. But again, what are some things and projects maybe that people can do at the studio when things are a little bit, slower and you have a little bit more time? Some maintenance projects, things like that can be a good opportunity to do that. And then also, how about taking some time off for yourself?
Like real and true time off.
Even if it's just a long weekend, right? And
Mhm.
I know oftentimes we are like, we want to be available to our clients pretty much 365, 7 days a week. If you can't get coverage or you're in your studio where you don't have a lot of extra coverage, how do you feel about, I think it's okay to close for a couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, or just don't get that one or two classes covered, here and there. Just like, oh, for this week they're not covered. We're just not going to hold those. If that means that gives you a full 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever it is, if you can't get coverage, take it. Yeah.
Just take it. I think that's for the most part, clients are forgiving, and a good one this year would be 4th of July weekend, because 4th of July is on a Thursday. So maybe take Thursday and Friday off. If you want to have people, for the weekend, you could take Thursday and Friday off, or maybe just take Thursday off. I used to have a 4th of July class, but then finally I just like, nah, we're just going to be closed that day for good. I mean, that was like the 4th of July and Christmas Day were the 2 days I didn't have any classes. But I know some studios will regularly take the holidays off. And I had a client a couple of years ago who just starting out, not a lot of teachers, and just was like, I can't teach. I said, then don't teach 7 days a week. Take Sunday, take a day off, and just close this. And just like a lot of businesses, small businesses will close 1 day a week.
When we first opened, we did not hold classes on Thursdays because in our experience being at another studio that we worked at, that had been the slowest day of the week. And we thought it's just the two of us doing every single class on the schedule right now. And we need a day off. So we just didn't have classes, and that was how we opened. So the students didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But, of course, over time, we built it up and had other people working and added. But I think it's important to make sure that you're on a regular basis. If you're not doing it on a regular basis, do it once this summer, because it's the quickest way to burn out and just feel like resentment of the studio and everything is to not take time for yourself. So,
or sign up for coaching to help you get the systems in place. And go away for a couple of weeks and take time off and completely disconnect, because you know that your studio is being run while you're away. Right. And, I was like, if, nobody's really, if some things don't get done, is anybody to die because of it?
Right. I kind of felt like the studio didn't burn down, so I can handle whatever comes when I get back.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's fine.
And when we say take time off, we mean take time off. Disconnect.
Yes.
Don't check email. Don't check Slack if you're using Slack, and that's another good reason to have a communication tool with your team that is not your personal cell phone number. because it's really hard to ignore your personal cell phone number when you get a text. Where if it's in like a Slack app or a group me or whatever it is, it's like you can log out and turn off that notification. And then this is where you have like a true emergency policy. It's like, in these instances, you contact me only.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you think about it, what if you were like in a coma in the hospital and you couldn't take care of it? What's the fallback position for that? Right.
Your alien abduction manual needs to be in place.
Manual. And the one that I've been touting for a while now is, as the owner, typically, even if you have a ton of all your SOPs written, do you have an SOP for if you're not able to do payroll? Right? Even if you don't physically process, like if you have I did my own payroll through QuickBooks, but let's say you use somebody like ADP or some of those other companies that are out there, somebody still has to get them the information of the hours and the classes and, you know, all that stuff to the payroll company to run the payroll checks. So who in your organization have an SOP? This is how you pull the hours, right? I have a client who's going to leave that with her accountant and say, this, in the absence, if I'm not able to, this is how you can run payroll. Right. So, you know, even something as simple as that is, you know, so that you can, because sometimes I take time off, it was during a payday and I'm like, I got to process payroll today. And even though it really didn't take me that long, it was just still that mind shifting from, oh, I'm trying to take some time off to be with my mom or whatever, to now I got to spend this time to run payroll. It's just that energetic shift from, oh, I'm not disconnected enough. Right. So
not really and truly
I'm not
away.
really truly away because I'm processing payroll. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, you start processing payroll, you start looking at numbers, and before you know it, 2 hours have passed and you're working. So there we have it. So go enjoy some time. And I do want to say this, since we've got let me look at my calendar real quick, is our good friends Astral, which is one of our premier partners that has the wholesale for yoga clothing. If you're not familiar with them, they are an amazing service. Several of our clients have taken advantage of it. Just to let you guys know, I'm going to be getting this set up, but they are going to be hosting a webinar on I believe it's going to be on the 25th of the month, and it will be at 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And Jeff from Astral will be on talking about things you can do retail in the summer, get some retail sales going, getting your retail prepared, and also certainly prepared for the biggest shopping season of the year, which is, as we know in North America, the holidays. So this is a really good time to think about, yes, it's only June, but to start putting some plans in place for, if you haven't done that yet, plans in place for the end of the year. And of course, if you were at the summit last year, you already have your plan in place. So if you'd like to have your plan in place for 2025, there's still time to sign up for the summit, all the details in the YC. So, and again, this year we have the offsite version. So you can book your own accommodations, and we have a manager's track this year, so you can bring your manager. So yeah, so check it out. I think that's about all I have in me today. I'm wiped.
Yeah, go rest, Terry.
I am going to take
busy week.
Yeah, I'm going to go take the rest of the day off because I head out Monday for another on-site.
That's right.
Yay. All right. Well, good to see you as always, friend Carol. Everybody in the YC, go do some yoga. Think about strategies. Think about ways you can build your team. If you're a leader, if you're happen to be a yoga teacher that doesn't own your studio, maybe you think about, how can I be a better team member? How can I be a better team member? Am I open to new ideas? Am I open to helping out? Am I open to doing things that I don't necessarily like to do, but want to help lift up and support my community? Because it's not just about teaching yoga classes, yoga teachers. It's a lot more than teaching just a yoga class. Right? If someone wanted to take just a yoga class, they do it for free online. So there's a reason they come to the studio. And if you haven't heard this before, the number one place most people practice yoga is for free online. So we want to make sure they have that fabulous experience when they come to your yoga studio. So what can you do as a yoga teacher to help create that experience and to help make everybody up level because of it? So there we have it. That's my rant for today. All right, friends, have a good rest of the day. We'll see you in the YC. Go do some yoga. Big love to